I was having a conversation with my friend Val, my new friend Val, who's a very smart person, and we were talking about Facebook, Google, Amazon, and how they're eating the entire world, and the importance of companies declaring their independence from those three huge monsters that just keep eating their way up the chain. She said something really, really smart. She said, Google gets away with murder. Amazon is in the news all the time, and part of that's because of Washington Post has put them in a particular political side of the battle right now. I almost said war, which is kind of a scary word for me right now in America. But Facebook is in front of Congress and governments all over the world, constantly pretty much just getting whooped and just getting called to taken to task and called to the carpet about their data practices. And Google, you see kind of headlines, but they're always tucked away. It's, Google is called out for this or that, but it's never really brutal. And in America, in the US, they kind of get away with everything. I mean, even their staff, all the female staff does a walkout. They have a bunch of engineers resign because of their data practices and because of some of their contracts with government agencies and digital surveillance. But that really doesn't hurt their business. It really doesn't hurt their stock price. Consumers aren't up in arms about it. These stories that kind of surface, but they really stay below the radar. And as we were talking about it, she said, because Google is just so good, it's so useful. I use it to navigate from my house to my meeting. I use it for Gmail. In fact, the whole conversation started when we were talking about how important Google Docs are. We were trading back and forth a Google Doc, and we both agreed, that's probably the best invention for business. It's amazing how we used to send a Word doc back and forth, or worse, like a letter, a draft, and mark it up, redline it with pencil, and send it back. Because they serve the purpose of whatever I need, Google gets it done. They get a pass. The more useful the brand is, the more of a pass they get. Facebook becomes a thing where it's like, well, I don't like that they have all my data, and what's the actual benefit I get? Yeah, I connect with all my friends, I connect with my family, it connects the world. It sort of lives up here. I can call my own mom. I don't need Facebook to do that. Amazon sells me a lot of stuff. It provides me some value in terms of free stuff or some access to tools, and AWS is a really powerful tool for scaling up small businesses or huge businesses. It's definitely changed the marketplace, but from a consumer perspective, besides Prime, it doesn't have that everyday critical value that Google has, where starting in 1997, I remember thinking, I have a question, I'm going to Google it. I get the answer. That's really valuable. With Amazon, I go there and I ask a question and it tries to sell me something. With Facebook, I go there and I ask a question and I get a couple of responses from people that I'm not so sure know what the hell they're talking about. And then I get ads served to me immediately on the Facebook platform about that topic. But with Google, and believe me, they're taking that data and using it to sell me things. But the benefit I get out of it is so useful that it's worth it to me to make that trade-off. And so when we think about how people think about brands, what they think about brands, there's trade-offs. There's always going to be trade-offs. What's the trade-off for having Coca-Cola? There's a product with really no benefit. It tastes good. So I'm going to get, lots of sugar, lots of calories, but it does taste good, so I'm making that trade-off. That's a trade-off I'm willing to make. I associate it with good times, and so that's a trade-off I'm willing to make. As a brand, it stands for something more like what they want it to stand for, sharing and happiness, but it stands for good times. That's kind of your memory of it. That's my memory of it. But it doesn't serve a greater purpose, where Apple lives solving problems, helping you get things done, making you productive. Microsoft with the Surface products is trying to get into that space of utility, being useful, being productive, keeping your ideas able to be output and being able to activate them quickly. And Google has really eaten everybody's lunch, and now the competition is starting to come around and figure out, oh, we have to actually give them real value. Everything can't just be entertainment value. So we're kind of watching this thing together and figuring out how it works. But for each of those three brands, the more damage they do as Facebook keeps eating the media, well, the media is not very nice to them. And as it disrupts elections, the government's not very nice to it. And so if people aren't getting value, they're not going to defend it. You try to get people to boycott Google, that would be pretty tough. The amount of things that Google is entrenched in your life that you use Gmail, you use Google Voice, you use Google Wave, just kidding, nobody I know. You use Google Maps, you use products that use Google Maps. Think about that. You use Waze. So all those things are actually providing a value, which is how Google has differentiated itself, the moat that Google has built in the digital war of carving out space in the FANG battle is usefulness. Their products actually solve problems and answer questions that real customers have, and not Silicon Valley idealists or dreamers that say like, oh, we're going to solve this problem that we're the only people who have. Google works pretty well for everybody. It's effective, and I know there's downsides to it, but the brand gets a pass because of the value it brings. So when we do think about how people think about brands, what people think about brands, we have to think about what's the usefulness they're getting out of it, what's the benefit they're getting out of it, and how likely would they be to stick up for us, for our brand, if we did something wrong. Think about it.